Not having Ryu as the main protagonist in a mainline Ninja Gaiden game is a big no-no for many. I'm personally not a fan of the idea, but in theory, if done well, it could work. We have examples of this in other franchises. The key phrase there, though, is in theory. In actuality, Ninja Gaiden 4 may have messed this up.
Oh shit. Here we go again.
I may not believe that Ninja Gaiden 4 falsely advertised or misled its players, but this may be one of the rare times that my gaming chops and I can come to an agreement. Ninja Gaiden 4 is not a perfect game, and it may have gotten some things pretty wrong.
Right now, I'm just so sick of it. I am done with it. I'm dropping it. Let's move on to something else, man. Ninja Gaiden is dead.
Why did developers feel the need to take such high risk of upsetting existing fans by changing the original characters and worlds they love? Did Ninja Gaiden 4 really mess this up? We're going to answer that question in this video. This is 10 things Ninja Gaiden 4 got wrong. My gaming chops and Blader are hardly the only voices speaking out about Ninja Gaiden 4. I should be upfront in telling you that I actually really like Ninja Gaiden 4. It's been extremely enjoyable for myself and many others, old heads and new heads alike. It can't be ignored, though, that there are several long-standing Ninja Gaiden fans who are not happy for various reasons. For some, maybe it's combat. For others, it's that you play as Yakumo for 75% of the story mode. And in some cases, maybe it's just the bosses, amongst other critiques. So where does the truth lie? Get it? Truth shouldn't lie. I'm unbearable. Let's start with one thing. I know you're here to see. Yes, you, dear viewer. I know you're sitting there in your gamer chair, slurping your big drink, going, now that's refreshing. Leaning forward to hear about the big man himself, Hayabusa, Ryu Hayabusa. Alright, so here's the thing about Ryu Hayabusa's role in Ninja Gaiden 4. He takes up about 25% of the main story, but he takes up like 80 or 90% of your post-game playtime if you want. Why? Because once you hit trials, purgatory gates, and chapter select, Ryu basically becomes the main character. He's just so strong and fun to play that having him as an option suddenly feels like, of course I want to play Ryu Hayabusa. And then he's really fun to play. So Yakumo does the campaign, and Ryu kind of does everything after. Unless you're a super diehard Yakumo, you can play Yakumo. So Ninja Gaiden 4 really needed his campaign chapters to hit hard, since he only took up about 25% of it. This is where things get complicated.
I have brought peace, freedom, justice, and security to my new empire. What?
The structure almost works beautifully. You spend 13 chapters with Yakumo, you learn his weapons, you hit the emotional peak, and you start thinking, damn, I could use a fresh kit. New weapons, new Nimpo, something crazy, right? You finally got in the rhythm of everything now that you're ready for the next part of the meal, the next course, right?
All right, we've got one order of fries, and for you, miss.
I'll just have the side salad, please.
Excellent.
Right? And then boom, Ryu drops in. Like, yes, perfect timing. Like, I just got done finishing all 4 of his weapons. By now, I've learned all the attacks for all those weapons. What's next? Ryu is what's next, right? So that it's a huge payoff. It's a huge hype moment. I've been waiting to play as Ryu for so long. And this is exactly where the game should give Ryu a major spotlight. And the story idea is good. Ryu's whole off-screen adventure with Sayori finally gets shown. You get character development. Ninja Gaiden fans have literally waited decades for. So what's the problem? The levels. The levels are the problem. Here's how it breaks down. Chapter 14 is like Ryu's mini tutorial. And just to preface this, there's 19 total chapters plus chapter 0, so 20 chapters in total, right? Chapter 14 is where you first play as Ryu, and it's his mini tutorial. You just fight a boss, and you can't even die while fighting the boss, which is kind of anti-Ninja Gaiden in my opinion, but whatever, right? Chapter 15 is basically a condensed remix version of Yakumo's chapters 8 through 10, the outside ones, same locations, fewer set pieces, faster pacing. Chapter 16 is a condensed version of Yakumo's chapters 1 and 3, the beginning of the game in Tokyo. Again, it's a familiar set piece with familiar bosses. Chapter 17 is literally Yakumo's chapter 7, but it's actually kind of better. You fight more enemies, like waves of enemies, before fighting the boss. You know, it even tries something interesting where your checkpoint is before the enemy gauntlet. So if you die on the boss, you've got to fight those enemies again. Very Ninja Gaiden, very cool, right? This is honestly perfect, you know, as far if you're gonna copy a Yakumo level, this was the way to do it. But chapter 18, this is the one that everyone loves. And it was finally something new. It's a new level, a new route. Ryu picks up right where Yakumo left off. It's got this incredible music medley, like bringing in Ryu's themes from NES, Ninja Gaiden 1, Ninja Gaiden 2, Ninja Gaiden 3, you know, the modern ones as well. It's got that perfect pace and tone. It's genuinely like a nostalgic and fresh level, and I love this level. This is what Ryu's arc should have been the whole time. But it's just that last level where you're like, oh no, you know? And then at the end, though, you get to the boss, and it's just kind of a random monster. It's like a sub-boss, but not a finale, not a lore fight, not a holy crap, that's who he faces moment. It's just a random monster. So instead of like a climactic Ryu's arc finishes, right? You get, all right, cool beast man, anyway, back to Yakumo, and then you get the cool Yakumo versus Ryu fight. But I really wish there was something that we saw, some super boss, some that was in the lore and like important to the story, instead of Tatyus, which he just wasn't, right? So what's the real issue? Ryu's campaign needed 1 or 2 more chapters. It needed more unique environments in his chapters, at least one major story impact boss, and a proper climax. Instead, we got recycled maps, partially recycled maps, the one amazing original map, but even the original map is kind of like half a level instead of a full level, because you run through it afterwards as Yakumo and you see like all the blood of where you fought as Ryu, and then you get to the point where Ryu killed the boss, and then there's a whole rest of the final level of the game starts at that point, right? And so it should have had at least, you know, a final boss that doesn't, you know, hit like a final boss. Because that was tough. That was tough, honestly. So Ryu is the star of the post game, but not the star of his own part of the campaign. You thought I was going to do that joke again, didn't you? Did you? I almost did. I almost did. You know what, Billy? Roll the tape. Sorry. I just couldn't help myself there. But let's actually talk about Ryu's Stinky Progression. In past Ninja Gaiden games, progression had identity. You got upgrades through hidden secrets, buying things with collected currency, or in Ninja Gaiden 3's case, being rewarded based on how well you performed. You would spend karma on select upgrades. It always felt earned, and importantly, it felt like your choices shaped your build. Obviously, in all the Ninja Gaidens, you do eventually reach a point where currency doesn't matter. You have so much, you get everything. But before that, it does matter. And in Ninja Gaiden 4, Ryu's unlocks are tied entirely to exploration. You open chests and it'll be like, you unlock the ability to tie your shoes. Congratulations. And that sounds fine until you remember the levels you're exploring are basically the exact same levels that we've already played as Yakumo. And here's the thing, it's not a bad idea, even on paper. It actually lines up with Ninja Gaiden 1's philosophy really well. Ninja Gaiden 1 on the Xbox tied progression to exploration too, but the key difference is that Ninja Gaiden 1 was awesome to explore. It had, like, really cool secrets, clever placement, and secret areas that rewarded your curiosity or your time spent looking around. Ninja Gaiden 4 reused levels are way too copy paste for that, so the exploration system just falls flat. It's as simple as that. Maybe if they fleshed the levels out more and made them unique, it could work. But as it feels now, it feels shoehorned in, And if the combat didn't carry the game so hard, I might be more upset about this as it stands now. Meh, but I still think they got it wrong. And with the big shift in Ryo's progression, and the reduced screen time that he gets in the story, it brings up the age old question: why do developers feel a need to overhaul long standing systems in classic franchises? Why did they feel the need to change these characters and these worlds and these games that we love? A lot of the time they say it's for the sake of pushing the story forward, but I think that's cheating ourselves a little bit, because wasn't it Tolkien who said, part of the attraction of the Lord of the Rings is, I think, due to the glimpses of a large history in the background. An attraction like that of viewing far off an unvisited island or seeing the towers of a distant city gleaming in a sunlit mist. To go there is to destroy the magic, unless new unattainable vistas are again revealed. I think that's my favorite J.R.R. Tolkien quote. you know. So in this case, honestly, I still think they cooked with Ninja Gaiden 4. I don't think death of the franchise is preferable. I think the trade-offs were actually still worth it, even if not everyone agrees and even if it has some pain points. But let's be real, this isn't the dream version of Ninja Gaiden 4 the devs wanted to make. I think we can agree on that. I can already hear them saying we were on Microsoft's timeline. We didn't get to implement everything the way we wanted. We wanted more trials, more Ryu, more story moments. And we know that this is not an assumption, but that there's some truth in this, because what have they revealed to us about DLC? They were talking about DLC weapons, DLC trials, DLC story missions before the game even launched. Isn't it a little ironic that those are the exact three things Ninja Gaiden 4 feels like it needs more of? They knew. They were like, no, we have to cut this and we have to cut this. We're not going to make our timeline. Add it to the DLC, man. And then that makes me wonder, what DLC would we have gotten instead if that wasn't the case? So I think they needed more time, in my opinion. Now, my final thought is, I'm not a game director, but I imagine it's an insanely difficult job, and Ninja Gaiden 4 is impressive as it is. With more time, man, I can only imagine what they would have cooked. I still think Ninja Gaiden 4 is absolutely excess. I just think it could have been even better. So yeah, Ryu's progression, it's a little stinky. All right, next up is an easy one. Honestly, there's not a whole lot to say here. It's about the trials. In Ninja Gaiden 4, we got 18 combat trials. Just 18. For Ninja Gaiden fans, that's kind of tiny. Historically, we get way more, and they're usually a big part of the end game loop. And I mean, look, most of the trials we got are fun, but they're also too easy on most of them, and some of them are a little imbalanced, at least one I know of. But we have normal trials, we have hard trials, and there's no Master Ninja trials, none. It's like someone ripped the top floor off of the building. We were going all the way up, and it's just not there. We did get a really generous supply of boss trials, though. Every boss, every difficulty, a lot of variation with that. That part is actually kind of awesome. A lot of replayability there, but man, it's just not enough. Missing out on those Master Ninja combat trials. It's not for this series, not for this fan base. Like no one's really satisfied with that. Ninja Gaiden players usually want something that crushes us, breaks us, humbles us, and then makes us want to do it again to get that achievement of getting through that. And I think that on this one, it just falls a little flat on that Ninja Gaiden endgame magic. So what's here is all right. There's just too little of it, plain and simple. All right, buckle up because this one is genuinely awful. The save system in Ninja Gaiden 4 is atrocious. No exaggeration, it's just one of the worst designed parts of the entire game. First off, it's completely unclear what the point of loading a save file for Trials even is. Like, you can spend currency with some accessories, I guess, and maybe use some items, but the items are preordained in Trials. So, why am I loading a save file for any reason at all for Trials? Why is that tied to your story mode saves? Why does it behave differently depending on some of the context, like checkpoint versus regular save? Nothing about it is communicated clearly. Second, the game lets you save based on checkpoint data, which sounds convenient, but in reality, it's a bit dangerous. It's way too easy to hard commit changes to your save file on a checkpoint save that you can just easily delete on accident at any given point by starting a new game. Or just straight up loading from a non-checkpoint save and then not realizing you just lost a lot of your work. It's way too easy as well just to accidentally overwrite your own progress. And the reason for this is because once you've cleared the game, all your save files look exactly the same. Same icon, same text. You really just have to base it off of timestamp, because when you're in the save menu screen, it doesn't tell you the difficulty of the save slot that you're overwriting. So you might have like a normal save and Master Ninja that have both cleared the game, and you just overwrote your Master Ninja save that you weren't done yet in like a New Game Plus, because you were trying to overwrite your normal save and they looked the same and you didn't memorize the timestamp. So you have no idea which file was your Master Ninja run, which one was your easy normal mode run, and which one was your like the save files like my little brother Billy's. They all blur together into like the same useless list. And that's just kind of inexcusable. The other thing too is that, like, while you're actively fighting with the save system, you can't save mid-level. Like, it will automatically checkpoint, but there's just a brief icon in the top right corner when that happens. There's no way to like, hey, checkpoint is going to be here. Do you want to accept this checkpoint? Do you want to keep this checkpoint? Do you want to just keep your old checkpoint? And the other thing is that you can't manually save at Umi, and that's a big gripe in the community, is that we should be able to save at the Umi or Muramasa statues throughout the game. And that's just, right now, it just sucks. For this next one, level design is too samey. There's just so much dark, so much wet, dark and wet, dark and wet.
Tokyo, where the rain won't stop. Drops keep falling from the top. Every corner, every shot. Darkness fills the world non-stop.
Anyway, don't get me wrong, there are highlights in the level design, and I do like that the DDO base is so bright compared to all the dark and wet in the game, but I just think that because you have to revisit every single place as Ryu, you get some dark and wet for like 4 levels, then you get some dark and wet for 4 more levels, then you get some dark and wet for 4 more levels, then you get some like pseudo dark but then bright for like a few levels, and then you're back to dark and wet for 5 levels. There's a lot of dark and there's a lot of wet, and sometimes I just wish it was a little less wet and or a little less dark. For example, it's usually a highlight to go to Hayabusa Village in the games during the daytime. Sometimes you go at nighttime, but it's not too dark. You got like the moonlight coming down, you know what I mean? So it's neither dark or wet, and that's cool. I like being dry. I don't know, that's just my take. But yeah, I mean, look, I don't want to get into like the nitty gritty of level design, because honestly, I'm not a level designer. I just know that it was dark and wet for too long, and I think that's because of Ryu. I'm gonna be honest. That's just it, man. I would be remiss if I didn't bring up the rail sections in the game. So let's talk about them, right? They're overused, and most of the time they're too slow. Not engaging enough to justify how often they show up. And I don't mind traversal mechanics. In fact, when action games break things up with the movement tech, that's actually pretty cool. But if you're going to use it this much, which is all the time, almost every mission. It has to be stupidly fun, like absurdly fun, to trade off the fact that you're stopping me from doing what this game does best, which is fighting things. So it needs to be infrequently used or just ridiculously fun. And right now it's more spectacle and scripting than actual gameplay. And if you remember my boss analysis video, this is exactly what I mean when I talk about bad boss design, when the spectacle overwrites the gameplay. And guys, that's what the rails do. They look cool, but they don't usually feel cool. Now, I'll give credit where it's due. There are moments where the rail sections actually hit, when they go really fast, when the pacing ramps up, and when you get those quick combat breaks, like in Mission 10, where it's like rail section, combat, surf section, combat, rail section, combat, and you're just speeding through trying to get that surf ninja achievement. That's all right. I like that. That's actually pretty fun, but the rest of the time it's not fun, man. They're just too slow. It literally, like, they are just too slow, and there's not enough to do while you're on them. You can like throw a shuriken or jump. There's got to be a little bit more, you know. So yeah, I think they missed on that one. All right, next up is costumes, or should I say the complete lack of unlockable costumes. There's none as far as we know, and I'm pretty sure that's guaranteed at this point. But yeah, no unlockable costumes in Ninja Gaiden 4. None. Zero. You can get DLC costumes if you bought the deluxe edition, but that's not unlocking costumes. That's just paying extra. And for a Ninja Gaiden game, it feels so wrong. Like they ran out of time. Like they didn't, you know what I mean? Um, it's just you know. So we like costumes as rewards, as secrets. They're tied to difficulty clears, hidden challenges, deep exploration. They were badges of honor that made you feel like you had accomplished something great, that you could show off your personal run. You know, like I beat very hard mode. I got the red muffler, in Ninja Gaiden Black. Like that stuff felt great, and you got to look so cool. Ninja Gaiden 2, especially Ninja Gaiden 2 Sigma, had a ton of skins. And in Ninja Gaiden 2, you started seeing DLC skins, but there were also, there was also just color variants that weren't DLC, so that was kind of weak sauce as well. But generally speaking, we get unlockable costumes, and that is very important. Ninja Gaiden 3 got it right, on costumes. So I just think we're missing something to earn, something to chase, something that says I beat Master Ninja, or I cleared all the trials, or I did whatever. It's just a weird omission, because Ninja Gaiden is inherently a stylish game. Character action games are about style, and costumes are very stylish. You gotta show off your drip, dude. I don't need like 50 outfits to unlock, but at least give me like 3. Can I ask for 3? Like a Ryu costume, a Yakumo costume, something for Death Wish or Untouchable. That would be just so sick. And without it, there's no sense of cosmetic progression, and it's a huge miss for a Ninja Gaiden game. For number 8, we're going to talk about iconic weapons. And this one hurts a lot of people. I think they did a great job in Ninja Gaiden 4 with its combat system, right? I've said that 100 times. The new combo-based format is deep and expressive and insanely fun when you're playing at a high level. But in the process of reinventing the wheel, we did lose some of the most iconic weapons in the entire franchise. And I'm not just talking about like missing content or we don't have enough weapons. I'm talking about weapons that defined entire playstyles. And I want to start with the Lunar Staff. This weapon wasn't just popular, it was legendary, and it carried people in the Sigma versions of Ninja Gaiden 2. It absolutely carried people through their Master Ninja runs. Long range crowd control, ridiculous juggle potential, stylish loops, unique heavy strings, a killer ultimate technique, and of course the obliteration techniques were really, really cool too. Lunar was the weapon you switched to when you wanted to feel powerful and control AoE space, and honestly, it was a boss killer. It was just a really, really good and really, really cool weapon. And the other one I want to call out is the Falcon's Talons, especially in OG Ninja Gaiden 2. Falcon's Talons were like the best at dealing with human people, ninjas and stuff, humanoids, where you could like single target flying swallow into Azuna like mages and stuff. It was awesome. It felt aggressive. It felt like cheat codes without being imbalanced, honestly. And I mean, I know a lot of people got their first Master Ninja clears in Ninja Gaiden 2 because they abused the flying swallow into Azuna, but it doesn't even matter, man. Like, it was just it's so good, and it didn't work on a lot of late game enemies, so it was okay, right? Like, it was balanced. But in any case, those weapons are gone, and it's really unfortunate because they're like classic weapons that feel so cool. And while I can live without them, I do think it's a miss to not have them in the game. And again, I do think it's like they ran out of time type situation. But I just can't help but feeling like those weapons are so iconic that without them, we've lost a little bit of the soul of Ninja Gaiden. So I would love for them to come back. And before we get to number 9, if you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching, guys. I really hope you like and subscribe for more content. I'm working really hard for you, so please let me know if it's something that you're enjoying, because I am very sleepy right now. But besides that, we're moving on to our 9th miss, the thing that Ninja Gaiden 4 got wrong, and it is the Dark Dragon Blade. So the secret weapon, the Dark Dragon Blade, it is just a copy paste of Ryu's literal moveset. There's no unique strings, no altered heavies, no special properties, no new animations. It's just Ryu with a red sword, and that's kind of wild because historically, the Dark Dragon Blade has always been this mythical, terrifying artifact with its own move set, and now it just feels like a Ryu skin. So I think it should have felt forbidden, overwhelming, and a little bit different from Ryu. And I get it, like the Shadow Gleam gem to the dragon's eye, like I totally get it, but it's just a cosmetic weapon swap to Ryu's kit. That's it. And I wish it was like its own standalone unique weapon, but again, we've covered weapons, so we kind of understand where that's at. And finally, the last thing that I have for Ninja Gaiden 4 that they got wrong was Ayane. I think bringing Ayane back is great. I'm glad that she has a cameo in the game, but I feel like there could have been just a little bit more, seeing her, hearing from her, seeing her have some uh, agency in the game. I honestly, she should have been in the post game as a tyrant. Like talk to the Raven or something. Talk to the kunai next to the Raven, and Ayane shows up. I think that would have been super super cool. Um, I don't need to play as her. Some people, absolutely need to play as her. That's just not me. I think that it's okay that we don't play as Ayane because we already have Ryu and Yakumo. But just something more in the game, some more presence of Ayane would have been fantastic. But that's it, guys. That's the 10 things that Ninja Gaiden got wrong. Do you agree or disagree? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that we get more awesome Ninja Gaiden content soon. Again, it is just one of my favorite franchises. I love Ninja Gaiden. I play it because I love the world, I love the characters, I love the action. It is just, it lives by the rule of cool and the rule of difficulty, and that is right up my alley. But until next time, this is Ninja Burrito. I'll see you guys. Peace.
So